And welcome to the fourth Raw Squad Chronicle. Today our special guest is Kaeleigh, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, from at GSP Quinn, and we are going to be going over Raw 101, so kind of prepping, why you should feed raw, everything that kind of goes into it. And here she is now. Slow it in. Connecting. There you go. Hello.
I've never been on a live stream before.
You haven't? Okay, well this is, hopefully this is a good experience for you.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Okay, well welcome to the fourth Raw Squad Chronicle. I'm so happy you could be here. Tell me how to pronounce your name. Is it Kaeleigh?
Kaeleigh, yes.
Kaeleigh. Okay, good. I want to make sure I didn't. Yeah. I have a hard name too,
I respond to many names.
Okay. So, thank you so much for coming, first off, and why don't you tell us a little about yourself and Quinn and kind of your raw feeding journey?
Yeah, okay, so my name is Kaeleigh. I'm 19 years old. I live in Connecticut. I have 3 dogs. Not everyone knows that because this page, Quinn kind of runs the show. But yeah, I have 3 dogs. I've been feeding them probably for about 3 years now, maybe 3.5. I'm not quite sure. And Quinn I've had her for just over 2 years, so she's been on raw for 2 years. Yeah.
And have you fed raw your whole life, or?
No. So my 2 adult dogs, we always have to do the math. They're either 7 going on 8 or 8 going on 9. They're about 8 years old. So when we got them, I was much younger, so I wasn't in nutrition or anything. And they were eating a medium quality food, nothing crazy. So they were eating kibble for 5 years of their life, but they're about 8 now, so 3 years they've been on raw. And I work at a holistic pet store. I've been there for about 5.5 years. It was my first job, so I learned a lot from being there, and that's what got me onto raw.
Oh, that's great. So yeah,
people come in and buy various types of raw food, and I was really interested. And we don't primarily just focus on raw, but we have a large raw selection. I kind of did it the way you're not supposed to do it, where I just wanted to jump right in, and not that I didn't do research, because I was working there, so my boss was helping me learn. And yeah, so I kind of just jumped in, and I didn't do it so great in the beginning, but I've learned a lot, and I like to help other people do it the right way.
Yeah.
And help others learn from my mistakes.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm just gonna jump right into it. The number one question that I've gotten through my DMs and the question boxes is meal prepping, because you have all these wonderful videos and you always show it on your stories. You're the queen of meal prepping, and especially with having 3 dogs that you feed full-time raw, you're the perfect person to ask. So what tips and tricks do you have?
So I have so many, and I have a reference sheet, so if I am crossing
okay. I do too, right?
Okay, yeah. So the way that I used to do it, I found, I don't know where I picked all of these up, but I used to, when I would prep lay down, I would either go to the Dollar Tree and get cheap shower curtains, or I would go to Home Depot and get the plastic, I don't know if painters use it to drape over chairs and floors and stuff to protect them, and I could lay that down, and that was a little tip that I would do, or trick that I would do, help clean up. I've since then tried to reduce my single-use plastic, because when I used to prep, I could prep for all 3 of my dogs and fill an entire trash bag worth of plastic, which I feel horrible about. And feeding so much meat already, not so great for them. So I tried to get away from that, and I think in the beginning I would put down that plastic because it made me feel better. I was worried about contamination and cleanliness, and I even though I would use bleach or disinfectants after, I just felt like I couldn't get it clean enough, even though I could. So for me, I would put down those plastic sheets. So it's a great time-saving, little trick that you can do. I don't do that so much anymore. What I like to do is, because I am prepping for 3 dogs at once, I like to do all the math out. The benefit of that is I can get out the correct amount of meat that I need, so I'm not defrosting 30 pounds extra and then letting it sit for a day or 2 and then putting it back in the freezer. So what I like to do when I'm prepping for my prep, I do a pre-prep. So when I get meat in, unless it's already packaged in pounds, like 5 pounds, I will cut it up. I'll spend the time to cut it up. I have a food saver, so I'll put it in the bags, I'll weigh it. So I only do pound increments. I'll do 1, 2, 4, 5, whatever pounds. And I know about, like, I usually use 5 pounds of turkey heart, so I usually do 5-pound bags. And that makes it really easy when I'm prepping. All I need to do is go in my freezer, I look, I see, okay, turkey heart's 5 pounds. I need 5 pounds. That cuts out one more thing I have to weigh when I'm prepping. And that's how I get my prep time down so much. Because a lot of people, they say, how do you prep for 2.5 months in like 4 hours? It's because I pre-prep. So I have all that stuff already out. And I also do the math out ahead of time. So another good thing to do if you wanted to is print out conversion charts, bone percentage charts. You can laminate them so that if you have to touch them after, you can just disinfect it. And that really helps. So if I need like 5.2 pounds of duck feet and I'm like, oh crap, I have gloves on, I'm all meaty, and I don't want to like get my phone out or like take all my gloves off, wash my hands. So what I do before that is I'll write 5 pounds, 3.2 ounces so that I don't have to do the math while I'm in it. It makes for a smoother raw prepping experience. So doing the numbers beforehand, keeping those laminated charts on ounces to pound conversions, bone percentages, the numbers that you need. Investing in a good knife is really important. I actually have a couple nice knives coming on the way, so I'm excited for those.
Nice.
Because it really makes the prepping experience faster and easier on you, because when I'm standing all day and I'm prepping hundreds of pounds and I'm constantly chopping, I get blisters on my palm, my wrist hurts because I have to use so much force. So if you have a nice weighted knife, good quality, sharp, it takes care of the work for you. So that really helps. I sharpen my knives before I prep every time, just because if I'm cutting things and I get a little bit of bone or, it just dulls over time. So like going into that with a freshly sharpened knife is much easier. Another thing is when I defrost meat, I prefer to defrost it in the fridge just for bacteria. If I'm prepping a ton or I have a lot of meat and it won't fit in the fridge, what I do is I throw everything in the tub. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that. That's like the perfect place to throw meat, because it can all defrost in there, and then when you're done, you take it out, you bleach it, sanitize it, scrub it, hot water, and it's done. So that's really nice. And it's huge. Like you can, defrost.
You just dump everything in there.
Exactly. So I like doing that. I have these tubs from Restaurant Depot that are really, really sturdy and big. Those fit perfectly in my fridge. So I throw all the meat I need in there, put it in the fridge. Sometimes if it's really packed in there, it could take like 7 days to fully defrost. So that's kind of a downside. But I've also seen people use kitty litter pans. And that just catches all the myoglobin that comes out. Because even though I vacuum seal it and it's in Ziploc bags, there's tiny holes everywhere. So I just want to, contain it. If not, it's going to go all over the fridge and it's disgusting to clean. So that really helps. Yeah. So those are pretty much like my main tips to come up with. The thing I love about prepping is, every single time I do it, I learn something new and I take away something new. Things to, cut down on meal time or the amount of time or anything like that. So, I always learn new things, which is cool.
And do you do like one dog at a time, or?
So I'll do them all in one day typically, unless I don't have time. But usually I'll set aside, I'll plan ahead because I'll know when my meal is going to end, and I fast them and they get whole prey. So if I do a 2.5 month prep, it might last 3 months. So I know kind of when I'm getting low, so I'll prepare for that. And I usually do at least 2 dogs, usually 3 in one day, and I could get it done in the majority of the day. I'll be doing it for most, but I mean, then I'm set for 2-3 months, which is really so I'll do them pretty much usually all at once because I'm frosting it anyway. It's not worth going through the trouble of cleaning everything because I do a really thorough clean after. It's not worth doing it 3 times. So one time.
Speaking of cleaning, what kind of cleaning do you do, and do you still worry about like salmonella or E. coli having fed raw for such a long time? Yeah,
so I didn't have the concern going into it. My family did. I kind of just made the decision when I was probably like 15 or 16 when I started. And not that my family didn't trust me, but you know, it is a risk that you have to be aware of, but I don't think people should be afraid of it, or it should hinder their, you know, ability to make raw food. So yeah, I just handling, you know, proper handling of meat. If I were to cook chicken breast for myself, I would clean it well after. So you can use like bleach, disinfectants, things like that to kill the germs. A product that I've come across lately is called Force of Nature, and it's electrolyzed water. So it's a mixture of, I don't remember exactly what it is. It's salt and maybe something else, and you put it in this machine and it electrolyzes it, and then it's good for 2 weeks. And it works just as good as any regular cleaner that you could get.
I know cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I know that you have a good recipe too.
Yeah.
So things like that, you know, just proper handling, just being safe. I wash everything after.
Yeah.
Everything gets really thoroughly cleaned. Same thing when I feed them every day. I say bleach the counters, but I use the Force of Nature because it works. Yeah. I'll bleach the counters after. I wash their bowls. I wash their meal prep containers. I wash my hands really well. If anything flies, I'll wash the walls or the floor or whatever. So I keep good track of it. Yeah.
It's just kind of taking the same, if we were to eat meat, do the same thing, kind of that mentality.
Responsible with it.
Yeah. So Quinn has been raw fed since a puppy, right?
Yes.
Can you explain kind of what you did with her and how raw feeding is a little different than adult versus a puppy?
Yeah, so puppies, it's really important. That's why, you know, not that I would deter anyone from doing raw themselves, but it's best to just get a meal plan from a professional, like Erin at Raw Pets Rule, you know, like let her handle all that. So with puppies, they don't have the ability to store nutrients like adult dogs do. So they need balanced meals every day. Where I balance my adult dogs over time, I can't do that with a puppy. So I give frequent small meals every day. I usually do like 3 to 4 when they're puppies, and then after 6 months, you know, you can go to 2, and now I feed once a day for convenience. But when I got Quinn, she was from Missouri, so she had a flight come in. I couldn't take time off of school and work to go get her. So she came in the beginning of March, and she was 8 weeks old. So she was kibble fed. Dogs typically, puppies can start raw as soon as they're weaned from their mother, which is usually 3 to 4 weeks. So she wasn't weaned onto raw. She went to kibble, which is not ideal, but I don't have any say in it. So I picked her up from the airport. She had a meal that morning, and it went, you know, a while until she had anything. She's up in the air for a while. She had a layover. And then she had her raw meal that night, and I used a pre-made grind that was already complete. I just had to add whole food supplements to it. So I started her on that. When you transition puppies, usually the best way, I mean, every dog is different, but the best way is cold turkey. They can't handle a slow transition over time like an adult dog would, because they need those nutrients every day. So the way that I did it is I just fed her raw meal at night. And that was it. And she had, you know, some soft stool for a couple days. I mean, she doesn't have a super sensitive stomach, so she handled it pretty well. But puppies, I mean, she was eating kibble for, I don't know, 4 weeks of her entire life. So her body wasn't accustomed to it. So it's usually pretty easy to switch puppies to raw, an adult or a senior dog.
Yeah, I know some puppies, they can be a little sensitive, and it's usually because of the organ content, and then you just cut back and kind of slowly build back up. Yeah. But the puppies you can just throw them on raw and be like, here you go, be happy.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So how about on the other end of the scale for older dogs? Is there kind of a too old to be on raw?
So your dog is never too old to incorporate fresh whole foods, whether that's supplementing their dry food or preparing a cooked diet or a raw diet. They can always benefit, of course. There are dogs that might have certain health conditions, and that is something that you'd want to maybe talk to a holistic veterinarian about. But for your like generic, healthy, senior dog or older dog that's been eating kibble its whole life, totally fine to transition to raw. The only thing that you might want to take into consideration is, well, there's a few things. So the dog's food history. Have they been eating raw for their entire life? Or kibble for their entire life? When you start incorporating fresh whole foods into their diet, it's going to shock their system. So you might want to do it slowly. They can handle, you know, a transition over time. So maybe incorporating I like to recommend maybe adding a probiotic to their kibble that they're eating now to get their, get some good bacteria in their gut to aid the transition. It can reduce diarrhea, and it's never bad to add a probiotic. So doing that, and then just taking into consideration what they've been eating. Raw can prevent so many diseases and other health conditions like arthritis, obesity, cancer. So there's always a benefit to going towards that step. Some things that you might want to take into consideration is dental health of a senior dog. If they've been eating kibble their whole life, they might have a lot of plaque and tartar buildup. They might have broken teeth or missing teeth. So whole bones might not be an option for all senior dogs. My next best thing, if a dog can't handle whole raw meaty bone, is ground bone. So you can either grind it yourself. I know I can't think of any off the top of my head, like probably Raw Feeding Miami and places like that offer ground bone items. So you can do that. You can buy a pre-made grind that has ground bone in it. There are other alternatives to a calcium supplement. Like some people do eggshells, bone meal, and some other things. It gets a little tricky with some of those because the manufacturing process can prohibit the bioavailability of calcium, and you want your ratio to be about 1-to-1 for calcium and phosphorus. So it can get a little bit tricky. Not that you can't do it, but for the average person, probably whole bone would be, or whole ground bone, like the way to go.
So it's, and also another thing I want to mention, if with older dogs, a lot of times there's maybe cancer or autoimmune diseases. That's what I love so much about Raw. Like the spectrum is so large. You could do cooked, or you can even do 50-50, whatever works for you.
Yeah. Anything is better than nothing.
Yeah, definitely. So, you said that your two other dogs are Shelby and what's the other one? Roxy. Okay. Yeah. So what was their transition like, and how did you transition them from kibble to raw?
Yeah, so like I said in the beginning, the way that I did it isn't the way I would do it now, but I'll share my experience with other people. So the way, and not that it was bad per se, I just know better ways now. So I would go out and I would just go to the grocery store and I bought chicken drumsticks. This was a long time ago, by the way. I bought chicken drumsticks and I would feed it to them away from their kibble as like a treat, just to get their bodies kind of used to it. Then after a while of them having that, I started incorporating some muscle meat and then some organ. There's different ways. Some people start out with organ. Like there's no necessarily wrong way to do it. There's many different approaches. So I did that. They were getting chicken drumsticks for, I don't know, a few weeks, few months. First I just started doing it for the teeth cleaning benefits. And if I were doing it now, I wouldn't do chicken. I would just skip that altogether. But so after they were used to that, I started decreasing. Once they were on like a small portion of a balanced meal with meat, bone, organ, I would slowly decrease the amount of kibble that they were eating and increase the amount of raw until I was at 100% raw, no kibble. And that, I don't remember how long it took. Maybe a week or two once they were used to it. But none of them have sensitive stomachs, and they're both pretty much garbage disposal, so they'll eat like whatever I give them for the most part. So it was a pretty smooth transition. But even when I started, like I'll look back at pictures of bowls that I made before, and I laugh because it's really fun what I was doing. Like, thank God I didn't have an Instagram back then because it would have not been good. But yeah, they handled it well. Every dog's different, so you might have to go slower. You might be able to do cold turkey. Every dog is different. You just have to know your dog a little bit.
So what's like the right way you would transition a dog now? So
again, it depends on the dog. I did start out with white meat in the beginning, which I probably would still do. It's a little bit easier. Could be a little bit easier to digest. So a white lean meat to start out with. Some people do like 25% red meat and 75, and then they'll increase the red meat to about 50 or more percent and decrease the amount of white meat. So some people, I don't know, if I were to do it now, I have done it, but usually I'll just do a cold turkey because the dogs can handle it. That's the way I like best, just because I have all the numbers lined up and I'm not missing anything. I don't forget to add things.
Yeah.
We'll include muscle meat and then add organs and then bone. So not that there's a wrong way to do it, but yeah, I think it's like case to case.
Really depending on the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know sometimes during transitions, some dogs are finicky about their organs. Do you have any advice for picky eaters?
Yes, tough love. So there's a few different things that you can do. I guess, I don't know, people call it the tough love method. I don't know if there's another thing that you would call it. So I have lots of experience with this, and I'll talk about it a little bit because Quinn is quite a picky dog. Not but she's a texture freak. Things she doesn't like something, she'll just turn her nose up to it or try to roll in it. So fish I really struggle with, rabbit heads I struggle with, and then some random things like, oh, you know, a few months ago she didn't want to eat turkey heart and turkey liver whole. She just I guess didn't like the texture.
Just like, nope.
Yeah, so things, I mean, I pay good money for it. I don't want to waste it. You have to eat it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, it's good for you. You don't know how good it is for you. So what I do is I'll offer a meal, and my previous experience just recently was with the 2 rabbit legs that she did not want to eat. So I gave her a meal. I butchered a rabbit. There were 2 of the legs that were in it, and I knew when I was giving it to her, I'm like, she's not going to eat this. So I usually feed my dogs at night. It's kind of whenever. So I put the bowl down. She ate everything but the rabbit legs. So I took the bowl up. I put the legs back in my meal prep container, put it back in the fridge. In the morning, I offered it to her again. She still turned her nose up to it, didn't want it. I put it back in the fridge, brought it back out at night, tried to give it to her. And this is with no other food in between. Gave it to her. She still didn't want to eat it. So I thought, okay, you know, we're on a few days in the fridge. You got to eat it soon. So I thought, okay, maybe if I put it in the freezer, change the texture. That's a good way to see if dogs like it, is to change the texture by freezing it or blending it or grinding it. So I put it in the freezer and I took it out the next morning. So this is like day 2.5 of not eating. And I offered it to her. And to my surprise, she ate it right away and happily. You know, like she was a little hesitant, but started, she was fine. So any time that she eats rabbit, I might freeze it. I don't think it's ideal to feed frozen food. That's not what I would usually do. But I do like the protein, and if that's the only way to get her to eat bones, I'll for her.
Yeah.
But if a picky dog, you can use that method. If organs are usually pretty tricky with some dogs, they're very, very potent. So you can try freezing it into like little molds. You can grind it or blend it. If the dog still doesn't want to eat it when it's a different consistency, what I do is I grind it or I chop it up really, really small, and I just mix it into ground meat so they can't pick it out. And then if they don't want to eat the ground meat it's mixed into, okay, then you don't eat today. And you know, you'll starve eventually. Nature will not let you starve. There was actually a study, I should have looked it up before this. I can't remember the specifics of it. But there was a dog, they wanted to see how long it could go without eating anything. So it was offered fresh water every day, plenty of water. And on day 100, the dog hopped the fence to go find food. So that dog went 100 days without eating food.
Dang.
So your dog holding out for 2 days is fine. Like, people will come into the store I work at and they're freaking out. My dog skipped their breakfast. They never skip breakfast. They always eat it. It's natural to fast. It's a good thing. You know, your dog doesn't eat every single meal. So people freak out a bit. But yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can make a picky dog eat.
And do you fast all your dogs?
Yes, I do. Randomly, it usually happens when I forget to take out meat. I have a pretty good system of taking out meat. So I keep it in the fridge that's in the basement next to my freezer. And then I keep those tubs in case one's cracked and it leaks or whatever. And I have 3 meal prep containers stacked up for each dog. So when I take one off the top, I get one from the freezer and I put it on the bottom. So by the time on day 3 in the fridge, it might be a little icy, but it's pretty much defrosted. Yeah, so I'll do that. What was the question?
Do you fast?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I do fast. So when I forget to take out meals or I'm too busy and I totally forget, you know, I look at the clock, it's midnight. Oh, the dogs didn't eat today. They don't bug me because they're not on a timed feeding schedule. Something that I don't like, because if the clock turns 5:30 and the dogs are bugging me all day, I find that really annoying. So whenever I want. So fast. It's not that I fast them once a week. Like every Monday we fast. It's probably, I don't know, 3 times a month, maybe 4. It's usually about once a week, but every I don't
just depending on your schedule, how busy you are, and that's how I do it too.
If I get to feed them or not, they'll bug me, but if I ignore them, they'll just go away. Quinn does it.
Yeah.
Shelby will like paw at me and whine, and she'll stare at you and then look at the door and then stare at you.
like I'm hungry.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier you don't like freezing frozen food. So do you always feed at either room temperature, or what kind of temperature do you usually feed at?
So after 3 days in the fridge, it's still cold. And things like if I have ground meat, like the ground turkey that I use is like a really fine pate, so it might be a little like icy. Like I can poke it with a fork and it'll fall apart, but it's not like liquefied, kind of like fully thawed meat. So I will usually, I don't like to leave my meat out on the counter. I mean, if it's frozen solid and I can't do another fast day, I might, soak it in warm water. That's not ideal. That rarely happens, but all my dogs, they're not huge, like they aren't really picky on the texture they'll eat. Yeah, usually it's cold. Some people prefer to let it warm up a little bit. But yeah, I usually feed it like fridge temperature, whatever that is. Yeah.
And why don't you like feeding like frozen, like rock solid frozen?
So I just don't want to injure their teeth or gums. Not that I think in some instances it would be okay, but if I have a really dense, thick bone, I don't want them like chewing really hard to try to rip it apart. There are some ways where feeding slightly frozen bones would be beneficial if you have a gulper. Like I taught my dogs how to chew. In the beginning, I would just hold whatever they were eating, and I taught them to eat it slowly and dogs they're not meant to chew up their food like we are. So their teeth are made to shear meat and swallow it. But with the bones, they'll chew it. So if a dog is gulping, sometimes partially freezing the bones can help with that. But ideally, on an everyday basis, I would feed defrosted bones.
Just because it's safer and easier to digest and everything, and yeah. So did any of your dogs go through like a detox period when they were transitioning?
Yes, that's something that is really important and that not all people who are starting Brawn know about. So at the holistic pet store that I work at, we'll have people that, their dogs have chronic yeast infections and a ton of issues like that. And we'll tell them the only way that you can fix it properly and that it won't come back is to go on a fresh diet. I do let people know because usually it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So common things that you can see are wax coming out of the ears, discharge coming from the eyes or the nose, sometimes bad breath or vomiting, upset stomach, diarrhea, excess shedding, things like that can all come about when you're changing the diet. And a lot of people, we'll start them on raw food, they'll go home, they're feeding raw for a week, they come back, we said we had to stop it. They got so much worse, their yeast got so much worse, it was coming out of everywhere. And we say, no, you just have to follow through and hold on, and after you get through that deep period, things will be okay.
Yeah, and there's a really great diagram, Antra's Pet Food, made somewhere out in the web that shows like from head to toe all the signs of detox, and that it's normal because it's like it's kind of like a drug detox. You're going all this high processed food into fresh, clean food. Yeah,
now I'm blanking on, I have it written down somewhere. There's a term for that. What is it? The health crisis. So same thing with humans. If I eat McDonald's every day, or just processed foods in general, and then I, got a personal chef and they were, making fresh, healthy food for me, I would go through the same process. Maybe it'll be a little bit different. All my fall out, but I'll still go through that detox period. It is such a drastic transition into their diet.
So what kind of, I know you did mainly DIY raw, what kind of supplements do you add to either balance or just enhance the meal?
Yeah, so I've been going to school for just over a year now for clinical pet nutrition. So I'm definitely still learning. I don't know how to formulate NRC meal plans. I always tell people that. I try to be as transparent as possible. So for me, I do a ratio, PMR, whatever you call it. But I do add whole food supplements because I know if I just feed meat, bone, and organ, I'm going to be lacking in a ton of vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. So there's like the main ones that are deficient in a lot of diets. So I do whole prey pretty regularly. I'm actually getting quail. Very exciting.
Ooh.
I've been pushing for like a year, and we're going to build a group, and I'm getting some quail. So at first they'll be just for eggs, and then when I'm a little bit more comfortable, I'll rate them for meat and stuff. But they get whole prey regularly, whether that's rabbits or squirrels or quail or lots of other things. So that would help for manganese and a source of fiber. I add fruits and vegetables. I have a veggie mix highlight on my page where I mean, each one's different, but I make a ton of it and I freeze it. And I get that. There's so many things. It depends on what I'm feeding. So if it's heavy in one protein and I know that protein is deficient in some nutrients, I'll add things in. I add whole fish. Quinn is super picky with whole fish, so that's a little bit tricky sometimes. But you know, like iodine, I use kelp as a source of that. I have a whole big thing of supplements, and I put it in a tub because going like this from one room to the other is not possible, and I've dropped some things. So yeah, I do think supplements are very important, and I do see a lot of people not supplementing their food. Like they'll buy I don't know what you would call it, like a base raw where it's meat, bone, and pork, but it's not you know, AFCO approved or anything like that, and they just feed that and they think it's fine, but you're missing all your omegas, you're missing manganese, iodine, and all of that stuff. So I do think supplementation is really important, and knowing which supplements to add is also important. But I even think there are some nutritionists that offer meal plan analysis, so they'll look at what you're feeding and let you know what it's deficient in. And there's also spreadsheets that you can buy. So the only one I know of, I'm sure there's more, is Raw Fed and Nerdy. They have a spreadsheet where you can input what you're feeding, and they'll let you know what levels you're at, what you're deficient in, what you're over in. It is complicated, and I'm still learning. So we'll get there one day.
Yeah. One day when it'll be less of a headache.
Yes.
Yeah. And you said, do you hunt with Quinn?
Okay, we've hunted before. I didn't get her as a bird dog, but once I saw her and I saw her natural ability, I couldn't not pursue that.
I'm just wondering, because if you ever caught like a bird when you were hunting, you could feed that until prey.
Yeah, so we did hunt. We've hunted a few times. I don't shoot guns. I'm not anti-gun, but I just I don't know. It's a lot to get into. So I'll go with hunters and I'll let them win. And it's good for me, it's good for them. Quinn finds the bird, they get the bird. So we hunted once with another bird dog, and they worked together and they found the bird, and it was shot and it flew across a stream and then across the field, and they both went and found it. And that was really fun. I don't know much about it. I've been trying to learn a little bit more. So I don't personally hunt, but I use hunters as a resource. That's a really, really great thing. If you're a raw feeder, to buddy up with your local hunters, because if freezer cleanouts, if they have extras and stuff, it's free meat, or you pay a small amount, but it's wild meat, so it's super lean, very, better than any commercially raised animals that you could get. So Quinn has never caught an animal. Shelby, my other dog, she's very agile. Catch birds out of the sky. She's caught a few that weren't fast enough, and she's gotten a few rabbits. That was before I realized I could just throw them in the freezer and have free rabbits, so that was kind of a waste. But Quinn has never caught anything. Actually, today, right before I came on here, I let her go outside to go to the bathroom, and there were 2 squirrels in the yard. And I knew she would see them, and my first instinct was to recall her. But then I was like, wait, free squirrels. So I was like, go, get him. She was very close. I think she touched one of them. But so we don't hunt regularly with her, but it's something that I do, like drags and things like that, just to put them. But yeah, thing is awesome because you get, I mean, it's not free meat, you have to pay for licensing, all the supplies, but it's a great thing.
I mean, technically it's free meat, but there's lots of hoops you gotta go through.
Yes, of course.
So as along with hunters, what are some of your favorite places to source meat from?
That's a good question. I've learned of so many sources over the years. When I started feeding raw, I was a little nervous because I'm like, I see all these people getting these amazing pieces and I can't find them anywhere. So when I first started, I started out at a Hispanic market and an Asian market. So I now have much better sources, so I don't shop there anymore. But if it was between grocery store meat and high quality kibble, I'd still go with the grocery store meat. So I've come a long way from the quality that I was sourcing. So there's so many online retailers. I'm pretty cheap when it comes to paying for shipping. I hate paying for shipping. So I don't order a lot. I've ordered a few times from Primitive Choice. I have some little rabbits coming this week that are like tiny, like this big. I couldn't sleep when I ordered them because I was so excited.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Like when you get more excited, you're just like, I found something new for my dog.
And then I had a dream, like full raw feeding dream. I was so excited. Yeah. So Primitive Choice, she's one of my favorite suppliers. She has a really good variety of different cuts and proteins, and it's really great quality. I mean, you do pay for the quality. It is expensive, but it's good meat. You can't get around that. So,
yeah.
I've never ordered from Raw Feeding Miami. When I order online, so the thing that I like to do, since I don't like spending a lot of money on shipping, I'm very cheap like that. I'd rather drive like 5 hours than pay $4 to ship something. So I try to only order like exotic meats or meats that I can't get. So if I can get ground beef or pork loin or anything like that, I'm never gonna order it online unless it's like free. So when I'm going to like Primitive Choice, I'll look for proteins that I can't source locally or really fun items, and I splurge because I'm already paying for the shipping, and I'd rather, spend a few $100s and get a ton of stuff rather than, only get a little bit and have to pay for shipping multiple times.
Yeah.
But great sources. I'm sure you can fill in the ones that I can't remember. Raw Feeding Miami, Primitive Choice, the new NC Raw Fed & Co. SoCo or SoCal Raw?
SoCo Raw.
This one doesn't ship, but if I ever go to California, I'm bringing a truckload back. SF Raw, San Francisco Raw.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I love her page so much.
Whenever anyone messages me and they say, oh, I live not that far, I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are, because that is a great source. And it's so awesome that you can be a member and come with your own containers, so you can use reusable containers to fill up your crock. Like, I love it.
Her whole process is awesome.
Yeah, I've used Top Quality in the past. I haven't ordered. I used to make monthly orders for years because I can pick it up like 30 minutes from 𝗖ście truck stops. That's really nice. I know that it's not Hair Today. It's My Pet Carnivore. They have a really wide variety of truck stops, so that you don't have to pay for shipping. And they have, I don't know what state they're in. I want to say like Illinois, but I could be totally wrong. So they go out really far. So finding sources that you can drive to is really nice. That's why I like Top Quality, because I can just go drive and pick it up. I don't have to pay for shipping. You have to pay usually for the gas, but it's like if I order 100 pounds, it's like $2. So I like doing that. I like getting into touch with local hunters. That's always great. Local farms. So there's some local farms around here. I've definitely reached out. Like, don't be afraid to email them and ask for what you want, and just be polite. So there was a lamb farm in Connecticut that I did some research, and I found them, and I sent them. I couldn't find their email, so I DM'd them on Instagram, and I said, I don't want this to come off rude because I'm asking for very strange pieces of animal, and I just explained I'm a raw feeder. I have 3 dogs. We like to use all the animal, like good use. And usually people are more than happy to either give me the offcuts, like the organs and stuff, or at a lower rate. So I like finding local farms or butchers, processing facilities, even your local holistic pet store. Like we sell a lot of stuff. We get North Star bison in, we get Joe Jergowitz duck there in Pennsylvania. And we have lots of pieces and parts that we can offer customers who can't get them. So there's a ton of different sourcing that you can get into, but those are pretty much the main ones. Also, there are other raw feeders learning from others where they get the goods from, because you know, some are like secret sources. Getting in Facebook groups, co-ops, things like that are all really for raw.
Yeah, and there's like a template somewhere, like I'm a raw feeder, I'm not crazy asking for all these animal parts, that you can post and be like, please give me the freebie.
I don't eat that stuff. It's
yeah. All right, so we're gonna start getting into questions. The first question that we got is, do you have an opinion on the company We Feed Raw?
I've seen them, but I've never looked at their ingredients or sourcing or anything, so I don't have enough information to form an opinion on them.
I know a little bit about them. I used to like them a lot, but then they switched to HPP and started adding synthetic vitamins and minerals. So that was, they used to be good. So, all right, let's see. What are your thoughts on feeding raw fish?
Raw fish, fine. So if it's wild caught freshly, you'd want to freeze it for about 3 weeks at least, just to kill off any parasites that are in it. Same thing with any wild animals. Just throw them in the freezer. There are some animals that you want to be cautious with, like deer. If you're in the area where chronic wasting disease occurs, that you'd want to look into. But for the most part, fish or wild game, as long as you freeze it for 3 weeks, you're good to go. And then you can feed it defrosted. I don't know if that's what they were asking. I sometimes feed it frozen for texture for this one because she's but yeah, fish is a really, really important staple in the diet. Yeah.
All right. So any tips of feeding fresh fish? Blitz typically eats it frozen, but she's recently refused to eat it. Oh no!
Who asked that question?
Emily.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so I got a grinder. I had a grinder. It was like $45. It was really cheap. But it kind of conked out on me. One of the mechanisms bent, so it wouldn't work anymore. And I wanted something heavy duty because I'd have to like push it down really hard, and it was annoying. So I invested in a nice grinder. It can't do bone, unfortunately, but I didn't want to spend $1,000 on a grinder. So I got this grinder. Quinn's really picky. And so last time I did my prep for Quinn, I didn't talk about this earlier, is a little bit different because I don't have to. I like to take bowl pictures. So what I do is I focus on making a pretty picture, and I write down how many ounces of muscle meat, bone, and organ I did, and then I do the math after, and I add things that I missed. So if I need, 3 more pounds of muscle meat, I'll add that in. So after I did her prep last time, I just threw everything. I took the bowl, I dumped it in the grinder, and I ground everything up. So that includes fish. The fish were really gross to grind. And it wasn't that bad. I don't really get grossed out with things anymore, but anytime I feed fish, even if they're whole, my family can tell, and they're like, oh my god, like, if I have to wash it really well after, because it lingers for a little while. But yeah, so for the fish, you could try grinding it. I don't know, you could try different types of fish. Like I pretty much I have the best access to sardines and smelt, so I stick to those. I'll get mackerel and stuff, but that's just easiest and cheapest for me. So yeah, grinding it, changing the texture, freezing it, and then just starving her, which I know is hard with a pointer because they run all day. Like around Thanksgiving, Quinn didn't want to eat something, I don't remember what it was, and she went 5 days holding out without eating it. And in the she still has energy she needs to get out. So she was running, we were playing fetch, we were training, and I had to go help my aunt and uncle move into their new house in Massachusetts, and their kids love to play with Quinn, and I'm totally fine with it. They'll play fetch with her all day. But I was like, this girl has not eaten in 5 days. She's gonna pass out. So I did cave, and I gave her something that she would like to eat. So yeah, just holding out. I know it's tough. If they really won't eat a whole fish, there's other options, but whole fish is best.
Yeah. Another thing that I do when she refuses to eat it is feeding it first, like hand feeding it first. Be like, this is all you get, and then once you eat it, you can get the good stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, eat your veggies, kids. It's good for you.
Fish.
All right, let's see. Are there any way to make sure that squirrels and small game are safe to feed? Their dog kills a lot of rabbits, and they want to make sure it's safe before they feed it.
Yeah, just like I said before, just freeze it for 3 weeks in a cold freezer, and then you're good. And you could feed it whole. Some people like to take out like the rectum and the intestines and stuff like that before they feed it.
All right, let's see. What are the best bones for small dogs to chew on to clean their teeth?
This is really important. I forgot to touch on it before, but size appropriate bones. So if I have a Great Dane and I have a Chihuahua and I have like a turkey frame, yeah, the Great Dane can chew it no problem, but that Chihuahua is never going to be able to eat it. So finding a bone that's appropriate for your dog is really important. I like, I'll say poultry, but I pretty much, not exclusively, but I primarily feed duck bones. I do like that protein, and it is expensive. So if I have a protein I really like, but it's really expensive, a good way that I like to get it into them is either by organs or by bones, because they're cheaper than muscle meat. So finding an appropriate bone, if you have a small dog, usually things like chicken necks, duck feet work well. And if it's still too much for the dog, some people get like a mallet and smash it whole, so it's a little bit easier for them to chew. But if you have like a tiny, tiny dog or like really young puppies, probably just whole ground bone is the best way to go.
Cool. All right, let's see. What raw feeding charts do you recommend?
Charts. So I'm gonna speak for them and say maybe they're thinking like those charts where it says like this is muscle meat and this
maybe or maybe like calculators.
Maybe. So
yeah.
The Raw Fed and Nerdy, they have one. If you're looking to just get like an analysis of the basics on what your dog's eating for meat, bone, and organ, I love like the Perfectly Rawsome website is like your one-stop shop. I love that website. So they have a great free calculator where you can put in the age and weight of the dog and what percent you want to feed, and then it breaks down in pounds and ounces, or you can convert it into kilos, how much your dog should be eating. So I do like that. And she also has great like infographics on, you know, like this is me, because something that's really frustrating is I see a lot of people online, and I get it, they're just, you know, they're misinformed or they don't know enough, but they, you know, they'll count lung or heart or tongue as muscle or as organ meat, because I think it is, or gizzards, that's a really popular one. So there are some good charts that just say like all of these are muscle meat and these are organs, and don't mix it up.
yeah. All right, next thing. Can you recommend a favorite knife?
For prepping, I don't really know of any. I can't remember the brand that I have. I have a screenshot of it on my phone, but I won't look at it. I like Japanese style knives, but the one that I did get was made in the US. I'll post about it when I get it in, and I'll let people know how I like it. But the ones that I use now, I honestly can't. It's like kind of a generic brand, but it's easy to sharpen, which is nice. Sharpen, which is nice. So I don't really have a particular brand. I'm not too well versed on different brands of knives.
Do you have like a what's it called, like a cleaver, or do you just do like a?
I don't, but I should invest in one, because when I was butchering that rabbit, I would take my knife and like try to crack. I mean, the bones are easy to snap, but yeah, I might invest in a cleaver. That would be.
I have a cleaver, but I'm scared to use it. I have it for like the chickens if we gotta, but I'm genuinely I just tuck it in the drawer and I'm like, that's only for the chickens. Nobody touch it. I'm not gonna use it.
Something though, a sharp knife is a safe knife. So having a properly sharpened knife is really important, and it's actually, even though it kind of seems like it would contradict itself.
Let's see. Back to the squirrels. Do you feed squirrel heads or no? It's from Emily again.
I would. I've yet to feed. I have a couple in my freezer. I've been talking to Christy at Burnett Farm Dogs, and she's been helping me lay like kind of like drags or tracks.
That's cool. Yeah.
I've been using that squirrel that I have to lay tracks, and Quinn loves it. So I don't want to give it up quite yet, because I like when I get another one, I'll use that. But actually we just redid our garage, so everything in it went outside, and we had some bird seed, which is attracting all the squirrels, because we had like no squirrels before. So I told my brother, you know, if you wanna shoot one for me, it's free game. We might have a few more coming soon.
Nice.
I would feed them. An account I really like is Black Lab, Yellow Lab. She has 2 labs that she hunts with, and I think she does, I don't know exactly, it's duck, I think, and she'll get turkeys, and she gets squirrels. So in some of her bowls, if you look, she does include squirrel fur, squirrel heads, whole squirrels, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great. And she also shows sometimes when she's butchering it, and I always think that's fun to watch.
So fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Does each meal need fat in it?
Okay, so that was, yeah. So, I mean, if you think about every cut of meat, I mean, every animal has fat. So fat is an essential part of the diet. You want to get it right. So let me reference my notes just because that was, let's see. Okay, yeah. So it provides essential vitamins and fatty acids. And there is a direct link between the amount of fat and the amount of vitamins and minerals and protein. So if you have a lot of fat, that decreases the amount of protein and vitamins. So
Yeah.
An appropriate amount, usually the leaner meat, the better. I know it's more expensive to buy 90-10 ground beef, but it really is best unless you have like a working dog, like a sled dog, you know, hunting dog, things like that, that are going to use those extra calories for energy because fat is used for energy. And fat is very calorie dense. Usually in the ancestral diet, it took up about half of the calories.
Yeah. Are you familiar with like the keto diet and Raw?
Yes. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
So well versed on it.
Yeah, and I know a lot. It's becoming more popular, especially with cancer. But it's like what's it called? Like a maintenance level. It's a 1-to-1 ratio rather than like the crazy 5-to-1 or 4-to-1, something like that.
Yeah. So lean meat is best if you can afford it. Like the leaner, the better. You know, because that's if you're trying to assimilate the ancestral diet. They didn't go to a butcher that butchered a commercially raised cow. They caught wild animal that was moving all day and had good muscle and little fat. So you're not going to kill, you know, a wild animal and find a ton of fat on it, but you will with a commercially raised animal. So that's just something to take into consideration.
Yeah. All right, let's see. My dog gets diarrhea whenever I feed sardines, even if it's with raw goat's milk. Any advice for her?
You could try feeding a different fish. I don't know if the dog is sensitive to that fish. There could be some other things going on. There could be an allergy. So you wanted to, you could get like a vet to do an allergy test. My store that I work at, we've worked with 𝗖cie viņš HIH forever. I know you did the stress scan recently for Stormy. I have it on 2 of my dogs. So if I have a sensitive dog, I'll rather than doing the elimination diet and taking like months to figure it out, I will just get that done on them. It's much easier. So if sardine comes up, it's a stressor on them. Not necessarily that they're allergic to it, but it puts stress on their body. So it might be something to look at. And then if you omit it from the diet, later on you might be able to incorporate it again without use.
And so also it might be quantity, how much you're feeding. Maybe it's too much, too rich for them. Oh, here, she clarified earlier on that fish comment. She meant about the thiamine issues and fish.
With the thiamine,
like raw fish. Yeah.
I'm not too well. I feel like I'm not well versed enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of reading and research on it. There's low thiamine fish and high thiamine fish, and there's like thiamase and thiamine, and the thiamase steals. It gets very confusing.
I don't feel comfortable speaking on that just because I don't know enough about it.
Just stick to the lower level mercury fish. And you should be good.
Is the mercury connected to that? Because I know
I don't believe so, but I think it somehow all piles and correlates. Let's see. Any good raw pre-mades you would recommend?
It depends on where you are. Are you in the US? Are you in Canada? You know, so and state to state they're different. Like we have a locally made food that's made in Portland, Connecticut, that isn't available like anywhere else besides kind of England. So it depends. A good raw food that's really popular in every state, I don't know if I'm assuming they're in Canada, is Answers. They're great. All their fermented foods and stuff like that. That's a great one. It's all a balance. There's some others, but every raw company might have some good and bad attributes, like Bravo or Steve's or Stella and Chewy's or Primal. Definitely better than a processed diet, but still like if they use HPP, if they use a synthetic premix for the nutrients, the quality of their sourcing. That's why I prefer smaller batch companies, like smaller companies, whereas like primal, I know they're mass producing it. And then, because I work in this field, so they produce it, it gets shipped to a distribution center, it sits in the freezer at the distribution center, and then we order it. It comes to us, and it might sit in our for a few weeks, so it's not fresh. Like the food that we get that's locally made is made to order. So we let them know every 2 weeks, we let them know and they make it for us. So it's super fresh. So things like that. Yeah, Answers is probably the one that I would recommend across the board because it's probably the easiest to find. And I like them as a company.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really can find them anywhere.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you store your meat in? Like, what's your freezer setup? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I have meal prep containers that I bought from Restaurant Depot. You can get them at Costco or Walmart or Amazon. Just a basic. I do use a plastic meal prep container. It is food safe. It's microwave and freezer safe. But ideally, glass would be best, just with the chemicals. The only thing about glass is it takes up a lot of space because it's thick and it breaks easily and it's so expensive. So when I prep, I'll do almost 90 meals for each one of my dogs. I cannot afford to buy that many glass containers. So I do use like if you go to like a Chinese restaurant and they give you a takeout container, that's pretty much what I use. But if you go to like my raw prep highlights, you can see. But yeah, I get mine from Restaurant Depot. They're cheap. They hold up pretty well. They go through the dishwasher. I like to put things in the dishwasher just because it can do a better job cleaning it than I can. They do break a little bit. They are very brittle when they're frozen. So if I drop it and it's frozen, it will shatter.
I've done that so many times and it just.
But it's cheap and they can be recycled, which I do like. So if one does bite the dust, I wash it and put it in the recycling bin, and I don't feel as bad. Whereas like I used to use Ziploc bags, and oh my gosh, yeah, super convenient because I don't have to wash anything. But that's really selfish on myself, like with Mother Earth, because single-use plastic, I was just using a ton of it. And I felt really guilty. Yeah, usually just a standard plastic meal prep container.
All right. When feeding whole prey, when do you feed the entire animal versus gut it?
So preference, I guess. Like I could throw a rabbit to my dog, and she could eat the entire thing. If I feel more comfortable taking it out, that's fine. If I want to butcher the whole thing and spread it out, so like if I'm feeding a whole rabbit, that's a lot of fur in one meal. So I'll take the skin off with the fur, and they can get the head and the body and the organs and stuff like that. I usually just discard the intestines just because they smell and I think they're gross. Yeah, but you can feed it if you want. There's good benefits of, if the animal was eating grass, things like that. So you keep it intact.
All right. And the last question from me to you: if there was one thing that you could tell future or current raw feeders about raw feeding, what would you tell them?
Let's see. Always keep an open mind. I think that's really important. Information, always updating and changing, and we're always learning new things. Like for the course I'm taking, I was reading a book that was published in '99, so it was 20 years ago. I was laughing at the information that they put in it because to me it was just so outdated and false, but that's what they knew back then, and this is what we know now. So 20 years from now, I'll probably be laughing at what I was making right now, saying, oh my gosh, I knew nothing. So unbalanced. But for right now, like, we do the best that we can with the information we have. So I would say keeping an open mind, and always being open to change and to new information, and just always try to learn more. Never stop learning.
What course are you taking?
I take the clinical pet nutrition course through the Academy of Natural Health Sciences.
Have you liked it so far?
Yeah. I took it. I couldn't take it until I graduated high school. So I got my degree, or whatever you call it. And I started taking the course, and I was super excited. And not that I don't like it, but some of the information is outdated. I just like a little bit more updated. I feel like it's hard to find a really good, well-rounded course. I will definitely be taking multiple courses. And so I mean, I finished the canine portion, and I feel like I should have.
We have a little timer going off, so we have 40 seconds left. Okay, so after this ends, where can they find you?
Instagram at GSP Quinn. Try to message me. I suck at DMs, but I try my best.
All right, so the next Raw Squad Chronicles is going to be May 10, 6 p.m. Central Time with Erin from Raw Pets Rule. We're talking ratio diets. Thank you so much, Kaeleigh, for joining me. I had so much fun.
Yeah,
you did great as your first live.
Yes, I had
so
fun.
Good. All right, you stay safe, and we'll see you maybe in a different live sometime if I do it again.
Yeah, we should do it again.
All right, bye.
Bye.